Saint Lucia, mama, that's the land of my birth. Welcome.
Ready mix. That thing so big, that must be a country. You have so much fun, you have a country. I have to find myself in your country. In your country. Your grandmother had an estate and she put it on your name. Your father job a lot like you and she give you some run again. Now your family members jealous because you cannot have all that. They start working before you, but they be selling till flat then you have a country. That thing so big, that must be a country. I have to find myself in your country. In your country.
Okay. Start. Bonjour tout le monde. Jodia c'est vendredi et puis il disait et puis c'est pour l'épisode of Rum Shop Talks. Good morning everyone. It is Friday at 10 a.m. and it is time for another episode of Rum Shop Talks. So I kind of wanted to wait for more people to jump on before I get started. And so yeah, we'll do that, but I just wanted to introduce the show before it got too far past 10 o'clock. And so while we wait, we'll just do our music as always. I could always just dance the music in my head, but I'd rather have real Saint Lucia soca music.
To solve them. I know you have them. My girl, you causing problem. I like them in I will let you move like a train and fly like a plane. And track and feel, just stay in your lane. I love my girl sweet like sugar cane. Want money to flow just like a fountain. Eat up that thing like a fried plantain. Bounce and jiggle and make it spin. Move together, Batman and Robin. Like a final, so you know you must win.
Okay. I'm actually just gonna start, and you guys can kind of just jump in as we're going through. So as promised last week, I said that I was going to show you guys how to make a chairman's drink every week for the next couple of weeks. So today's chairman's drink is actually super easy. It is called the Roseau Spritz, and hopefully some of you guys went and got your own bottle of chairman's. Like I said, for you guys, if you're local in Dana Point area, you can get this from the Total Wine on El Toro. or if you wanted to go, if you're like further up north, you can get it from High Times Liquor in Newport Beach. So yes, Newport Beach. So we'll just get started. This one is like really easy, which is why I picked it. All you need is 2 ingredients and ice. So you need your Chairman's rum and grapefruit soda, and then that's it. So let's get some ice in our glass here. All right, we've got our ice, and then rum. You gotta have the rum. So this is like a 2-ounce shot glass of, or 2-ounce shot glass. So we're just gonna use this as our measuring implement. Good morning, Mama. And so you're gonna have 2 ounces of the rum. Here. And then 4 ounces of grapefruit soda. So I'm using Squirt, and I've got a huge bottle, so I might be making a lot of those today. Whew. And that was a lot of work to actually get the top of that bottle. And 1 and 2, and that's all you need. So 4 ounces of grapefruit soda and 2 ounces of your Chairman's, and you've got a Roseau Spritz. So I'm gonna taste and see what it tastes like. Smells very rummy and grapefruity. That one, another really great drink. So try it out, and like I did last week, I'll just put the proportions down in the comments below when we're done with the live, so you guys can at home try it. And obviously, if you try it and you want to let me know how it tastes, just let me know. All right. So today's Rum Shop, I'm gonna switch to coffee because I didn't sleep very well last night. So I'm switching coffee, and I'm drinking out of my brand new 40th anniversary coffee importers mug, compliments of my son. But actually, I love this mug. I'm trying it for the first time today. No spillage, and I've had coffee in there about an hour and a half, and it's still really warm. So super stoked for my mug. Anyways, let's get started here. We will be talking about estate planning for unmarried couples. So you're in a relationship, you guys may be living together, beginning to create a life together. What are some of the pitfalls that we see? And whenever I think about unmarried couples estate planning, I always have this image in my head. For those of you guys who know me, I am obsessed with Gilmore Girls. It came around the time when I was pregnant, and I was like, single and having to like raise baby by myself. And I imagined myself being Lorelai Gilmore with my mini Rory. I ended up with a son. So I didn't really actually get the whole Gilmore Girls fantasy, but that's all right. I love what I ended up with. Anyways, the image that always comes to my head when I think of an unmarried couple estate planning is, I want to say it's like well into the season, and Rory's dating Logan. For you guys who watch Gilmore Girls, you'll know what I'm talking about. So just follow along with me. If you haven't watched Gilmore Girls, it'll make sense. So Rory's dating Logan. He gets involved in an accident. He's at the hospital, and she shows up trying to get information about him. And the doctors are just like, sorry, who are you? And he's like, she's like, his girlfriend. We live together. His family's not here. I am his family. And the medical professionals were like, I'm real sorry, but we can't share his medical information with you. And it's always, at the time when I was watching this for the first time, I was in college, it didn't make sense to me. And I didn't understand the legalities behind the rule. 18 years later, being a lawyer, working in this realm, I get it. I understand because of HIPAA why the medical professionals couldn't share Logan's medical information with Rory, even if they were living together in a relationship. So that always comes to me as one of the pitfalls of not having any kind of plan, but being in a long-term relationship with someone, is that you don't have the proper paperwork to be able to access medical and financial information for your partner that you're living together. What you also see with unmarried couples who are in a long-term relationship is that you start to amass assets together, whether it is that you guys decide you want to buy a home together, whether you're like, you know, saving in a joint account, buying things for your home. All of those become joint assets, where in California, if you're married, that is considered your community property. But when you're unmarried, it is like a gray area. You know, it's like who owns it, and you know, it's like, well, I paid for it, I bought it, even if it's for us, it's mine, my separate property. And if you guys would, for assets, for example, a home where you guys are both contributing towards the cost of paying for that home, paying for the mortgage, the utilities, you both feel like you have a claim to that asset. And so I wanted to just talk about some of the things if you're in a relationship where you're unmarried, and you're in that situation where you guys are beginning to amass assets, or beginning to create that life together where, you know, you have more joint stuff. What you should be doing to make sure that each other is protected with regard to assets, but also making sure that you can be, because honestly, if you're in a relationship with someone for 5 years and you live together, you are the natural person to be making medical decisions on their behalf if they're in the hospital, or if, like, you know, they're incapacitated and you have to, like, you know, continue paying the bills. You're the natural person for this. And it is very frustrating if you go try to do that and you're told that you can't. So what should you have at a minimum? You should, as an unmarried couple, have advance directives. We talk about advance directives all the time. We talk about why they're important, but for any person who's listening to this for the first time, an advance healthcare directive is a document that allows you to appoint an agent for you to make medical decisions on your behalf if you're incapacitated or unable or unavailable to do so. So naming your partner, your significant other, as an agent for your advance healthcare directive will make sure that they can continue to take care of you if you end up in the hospital, and not having to fight with the medical professionals showing why they are entitled to this information that they're asking for. So that's the first thing that I would recommend for you guys. And that is not something that you need a lawyer for. In California, there is a statutory advance healthcare directive form that you can use. It's pretty easy, self-explanatory. You read through it. The statutory form usually comes with instructions that you just fill out, have it signed by a notary or have it be witnessed, and just, you know, have it. That way, if something happens, you and your partner can continue to care for each other, right? The same thing with durable power of attorney. I would also recommend that as well. And similar to the Advanced Healthcare Directive, California also has a statutory form that you can use. And you can execute it the same way, either through a notary or have two witnesses who are 18 and not involved in the whole process witness your signature. So those two documents, I think, are very important if you are in an unmarried relationship, in an unmarried situation, and you want to make sure that you and your partner can continue to care for each other. The next thing I would say is when you're acquiring assets, especially if you guys are thinking about buying a home or have bought a home, you want to make sure that that asset is, and before you buy a home, you should definitely have a conversation about how you want that asset to be held. So unmarried couples have two options. You could own your home as a joint tenant property or as tenants in common. So I'll break down each ownership form and tell you what the pros and cons are for each one of them. So the joint tenant, basically what that means is that you both own an undivided 50% interest in the property, right? If I want to go in and, it's like I own 50% of this, I can share my 50% with whoever I want, that would sever the joint tenancy, but let's not get into that. But it means that like, it comes with what we call a right of survivorship. So if one joint tenant passes, then the other tenant automatically inherits that property by operation of law. You don't have to go to court, you don't have to be involved in any of this. You just need to file paperwork with the county saying, hey, the other joint tenant has passed away, now this property needs to be transferred into my name. So that's the one way that you can own property if you're unmarried, and you want to buy real property. The other way is as tenants in common. And what that means is I own 50%, you own 50%. There is no right of survivorship. I can do whatever I want with my 50%. You can do whatever you want with your 50%. So when I die, you do not automatically inherit my 50%. I could say I want my 50% to go to, my brother or my niece and my nephew. And so you have to understand when you're purchasing property with someone that you're not married to, what those two types of ownership gives you, and then decide before you buy the property and before you title it, how you'd like that to play out. Do you want, is it a situation where if I die, you inherit everything, that's how we want it to be? Or if I die, I want my 50% to go where I want it to go with my family, and you can do whatever you want with yours, okay? So very imperative that you guys have this conversation when you're thinking about combining and purchasing joint assets, especially a home, because you want to make sure that if something would happen to one of you, that there is a plan of how that's going to distribute, and it's going to distribute the way you want it to distribute. Because let's be honest, if you own a home with someone, you are both contributing often enough equally to that home, and so you want to make sure that that's dealt with. Also, as you're creating those kind of jointly held life, I would definitely recommend doing something like and it's weird to call it a contract, because you don't want to maybe trivialize your relationship and reduce it to words on a page. But like I said, as you're amassing and you're joining your life together, you want to make sure that if something and when I say something happens, I'm not talking necessarily about death, because we just talked about what to do with your property in case of death. I'm talking about if you guys were to break up, you bought a house, you were to break up, what do you want to see happen here? Something, it's best sometimes to go into that situation with written contract saying, hey, I put in this much of the down payment, I expect to receive that much of the down payment back. Or I didn't contribute toward the down payment, but I'm contributing equally towards the mortgage, I expect to receive that much out of it. That way, if you guys were to break up, again, you have a plan in place. Those are the kind of things that we don't think about when we're in love. We think that we'll be together forever, and that we'll be amicable, and we'll make sure that everyone's treated fairly. But the reality of the situation is that often enough, when you get to that point where you're breaking up with someone, you're no longer in this amicable relationship. And so having things done ahead of time to help allay some of the acrimony that you might find yourself in is smart. And then the last thing I would say is to just have a will. You don't need a big estate plan, but just writing a handwritten will down with your wishes with regard to your assets, because everything that you acquire before you get married in California is your separate property. And it's like you're working, you have your accounts, you might want it to go to your spouse, your partner or not. And if you want that to happen, then you want to make sure that you have a document that that says that. So if your significant other is the person that you want to be your beneficiary, then you want to have paperwork indicating that, because the probate code will not, there's no significant other unless you're in a domestic partnership. There's no significant other beneficiary in the intestacy statute of the probate code. So a lot of people find themselves in those relationships. You know, it's like we move in together, we are working toward a life together, we intend to get married one day, but we're not there yet. And we, in the meantime, you know, life continues and we're building this life together. And hopefully from today's talk, you guys can find a few nuggets that will help with, you know, making sure that you can, whether it is like continuing to care for each other, making sure that that's easy and feasible, but also protecting your contribution into the relationship, so that if you were to pass away or you guys were to break up, that you're not left with you know walking away from it because you didn't have paperwork done, or having those assets go to people that you don't want it to go to. So as always, if you have any questions, definitely reach out. I'll be happy to address them. And like I said, a lot of those things that I mentioned today, you don't need an attorney to help you with. It's a matter of like having that open communication, open conversation with your partner, and deciding what you guys want to have happen, and then creating paperwork to do it. I wish you guys a happy Friday. I encourage you to go try our Roseau Spritz and let us know how it was. And we look forward to seeing you next week for another episode of Rum Shop Talk, and of course another Chairman's drink. So bye guys, have a great weekend.
This is how we're